Hey there booktubers, I'm back with another video. I've been showing you guys a lot of books lately, and all those books tend to have really gorgeous covers, whether it be the Deluxe Penguin Classic Editions or the Essential Collection or whatever it is. I admit, I like pretty things, and that definitely shows up in some of the books that I purchased. I wanted to do a video about a couple of books that I have in my collection that don't have particularly interesting covers. In fact, some of them are quite hideous. And I thought I would feature these books and show you guys that despite the covers, the stories are actually quite beautiful. The first book I'm actually going to talk about is Still Alice by Lisa Genova. And this cover is pretty plain. It's not particularly ugly. There's nothing really special about it. And it definitely didn't grip me when I first saw it, but I definitely took the plunge and I decided to read this book, and I was so amazed by how amazing this book was. It is about a 50-year-old woman named Alice who is a cognitive psychology professor at Harvard University, and she is also sort of a master in linguistics. And what ends up happening to her is that she gets early onset Alzheimer's, and the novel is basically the progression of that Alzheimer's slowly deteriorating her memories. This book is so beautifully written, and the author, surprisingly, is not originally a writer. She's actually a neuroscientist, and I thought that was particularly amazing because she was able to give you all the scientific information about Alzheimer's while still having a really good narrative. And it didn't sound scientific, it didn't sound choppy or anything like that. It flowed quite beautifully. And I love that this book has a lot of moments where the character is going through all of these situations and she's forgetting things, and she herself doesn't realize it, but you as a reader begin to realize all the little things she's starting to miss. So I definitely recommend this book. And again, the cover, not so appealing. A lot of the other editions of this cover, again, is not that pretty, and I still highly recommend it. This book is called All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman, and this cover, it's a really tiny little book. It's about 100 pages. It should take you about an hour to finish this. It's that tiny, and the cover was actually sort of unappealing because of the man displayed on the front. And this is a really sweet, really delicious novel because it is quirky, it is light, it is such a perfect little book to read, and it's about a man named Tom, and Tom marries a superhero called the Perfectionist. In fact, all his friends are superheroes, and the funny thing about these books is they're not technically superheroes. They don't have particularly spectacular powers. They have things like the girl that can memorize things, and the guy that can control your feelings, and it's not really like super amazing like super strength or flight or telekinesis or anything like that, but it's about Tom and how he's totally in love with his wife, but then his wife's ex-boyfriend, who's Hypno, convinces or hypnotizes her to believe that Tom is invisible. So he goes about following her around and trying to convince her or trying to make himself known to her, and 6 months have passed and she's convinced that he's left her, and it's this really gorgeous, light, romantic sort of novel where he's struggling to get her to notice her, and it's a beautiful little book, and I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites as well. This last book is called Train to Pakistan, and it's the most hideous cover I've ever seen in my entire life. The font, look at it. It's squiggly. It's so many things going on with this, and it's very unappealing. It's basically a historical fiction novel that takes place in the summer of 1947 in a pretty secluded village in India, and what's happening around them is basically the separation of India into India and Pakistan. So there's a lot of social conflict and religious conflict that is going on between the Sikhs and the Muslim community, and this little village is being torn apart simply because conflicts that are going on outside of it is making individuals sort of part. And the people that live in this village have been together for centuries and centuries, and they've sort of gained this sort of bond, and this story is like microhistory. It tells this really gorgeous tale about how the people of the city try to maintain their society or maintain their community. And within the stories, there's also a really nice little romantic interest between a Muslim guy and a Sikh girl. So I actually really enjoyed this book. I thought this was going to be absolutely awful because of the cover, but I was really surprised by how amazing this is. So that is my really quick short video. I definitely encourage a lot of you guys to do this. Basically just search around in your collection and find the books that have the most hideous covers, but the story itself is actually quite good. And I hope this opens your eyes on some of the books that I've mentioned in this video, and that you definitely give them a try. So yeah, comment, rate, and subscribe. Ta-ta!